So former Crimson Tide quarterback by the name of Greg McElroy. Can you say game manager? I knew you could. So Greg McElroy has started a bit of a wildfire in the Southeastern Conference, a little Southern Fried football. If you have not heard yet, you're about to hear the rest of the story. So Greg McElroy said that he has heard, I always love when somebody says, I heard through the grapevine. So he has heard from a, quote, person very much in the know, that his former coach, Nick Saban, is not done yet. Yep. Nick Saban, now he famously quit Alabama. Couldn't handle the changing landscape in college football, so he said no mas, Nick Saban, and ran off to the boob tube to put makeup on and act like a fool. So Nick Saban, who quit last year, he was on College Game Day, and he was the guy when he started talking, you took a nap. And he was not at the SEC Network, the propaganda arm of the Southeastern Conference, panel of analysts at the Southeastern Conference Media Day event this year, which has been taking place. So he wasn't there. Now, Greg McElroy, his former quarterback, pointed out that it was notable. It was notable. The person that gave him this information was notable. So who's notable? What makes someone notable? And said they think Saban is not necessarily done coaching. In fact, said the person was adamant that Nick Saban would return to the sideline. So let us discuss the question for the esteemed panel, which you are part of. The question is, what are the chances? What are the chances that the old Alabama football coach Nick Saban returns to the sidelines? So I've got Wall Street, Wikipedia, and Original Cup of Noodles. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make some chicken soup for the soul. Not just chicken soup, but chicken soup for the soul. So number one. I said number one. Number one. So I'm going to set the Maller Sportsbook odds on this at plus 150. I'm setting the odds at plus 150. So if you're not good with math, that implies a 40% chance that we activate Saban Watch. Saban Watch. Activate it! That's right. I know, this big news. Big news. So we think that's actually pretty good, 40%. If you look at all the different variables involving Nick Saban, he's going to turn 74 on Halloween. Spooky. Now, as a rule of thumb, the R word, retirement, which again, this is kind of a flimsy retirement, college football and just sports in general. I learned at an early age. I used to be a big boxing fan, and as soon as I'm retired, that's it. And really, any form of entertainment, whether it's like how many bands have retired and said this is the last tour because they got to sell tickets, and then they take a year off or two, and then they come back, and they go on tour again, and they say, now this is really the last tour. This is it. Same thing happens in sports, right? It's a coach who's been good, who steps aside and says, I ain't coming back. That's it. It's about as final as a person dying in a soap opera. You know those soap opera deaths? Well, all of a sudden they just show up, a couple episodes later. Well, and 1 minute the villain has exited stage left. See you later. And the next, the villain returns, right? Sipping Gatorade in this case and calling blitzes on the sidelines with a scowl on their face. And Nick Saban, I know he won some kind of award, but if you watch him on television, pretty bad at television, right? I mean, no entertainment value by Nick Saban, just a hard-o on television. I don't know anyone that thought Saban was good at TV other than those that are sucking the toes of Nick Saban. Some of those people liked him. But for people that are just looking to get entertained, Nick Saban, not very entertaining. So he was bad at television, but he got the job because he had the resume. And that's how that works. You get those jobs because of your resume, and it's who you know and all that stuff. And people get all excited because of your resume. And speaking riddles and coach speak and all that gibberish and all that nonsense. Now ask yourself this question. What does a football lifer, been coaching football since he was a young lad, what does he do when the spotlight dims? Like, what do? You go out and garden? Get a little home and garden action in there. You play a little church bingo on a Friday night. Try to win big money, big money, big money. Yep. Golf? What do you fish? Is that what you do? You go fishing on a lake somewhere? Nick Saban, by the way, his version of fishing is reeling in some 5-star recruit and pantsing a rival. That's his move. Now, this story is bouncing around, bounce, and it's going all over the echo chamber, kind of like a pinball machine. The echo chamber just gets in there and starts bouncing all over the place, and you hit some buzzers, you win like a couple extra points on that, and so I imagine that the whispers, which do have some credibility because it's one of Saban's former players, it was one of his former quarterbacks that's tossing that out into the ether, who's saying that. But you imagine just that alone, just the mere speculation behind closed doors, not on the record, but off the record. You have athletic directors and big-time boosters at down-in-the-luck football programs, or even those that think they're not down in the luck, from East Lansing to College Station and everywhere in between, saying, wait a minute, you're saying there's a chance. You're saying there's a chance there. Nick Saban's not dead. He's just bored. He's just bored. And if you want to get technical, Nick Saban did not take retirement. He didn't retire. He took a TV job. He went on hiatus is what he did. And in many ways, he escaped. And so that's the part of the story where you're like, well, Nick Saban, he didn't really retire. He just was tired of the bull crap. You get to a certain age, whatever your job is. I've learned this from my older relatives when I was younger. You just get to a point in life where you're just tired of the bullcrap. You're tired of people not doing their job. You're tired of people, not doing the things they're supposed to do. And you're tired of the rules that get put in there. And you just shut it down. That's it. And so Nick Saban slipped through the back door of college football. He just went to television. And I didn't want to be part of it. He did not want to be part of what was going on. The NIL, no. Nick Saban liked when he was the guy that was giving out money, and he was the one handing out envelopes with cash. That's what he liked. He didn't like when everyone's doing it. And the transfer portal? What is wrong with you? The transfer portal? Have you lost your bloody mind? My God. Transfer and revenue sharing? What is that? Nonsense. Nonsense, Nick Saban said. So Saban saw what was happening, this metamorphosis, as college turning into some kind of Wall Street internship thing mixed in with some other crap. And so it's like, hey, I'm a septuagenarian. I'm out. I'm out of here. I'm bailing. But he's really reevaluating. Now, that being said, as we turn the page to page 2 here, where are some of the college landing spots? Let me kind of hold your hand, walk you through this. So where are some of the college landing spots for Nick Saban? If Nick Saban were to come back in the multiverse, so Saban, he can have any job that he wants. Can we agree on that? I mean, any job that Saban wants outside of maybe 3. There's maybe 3 jobs Saban can't have. But outside of that, any job he wants. He's got the Q score. He's got the awards on his Wikipedia page. There's a lot of chest candy. A lot of chest candy there. And so now I don't buy that he's necessarily going back to college football. That's not the play here. That's not the play. However, for the purposes of this monologue, to engage in this hypothetical conversation, and we will embrace the reality that in the multiverse, there is a dimension where Nick Saban does return to college football. That he decides, I had my little temper tantrum, I had my conniption fit, I had my hissy fit, and I want back in. So if Saban did return, there's only 2 conferences he can go back to. You've got the varsity and the junior varsity. The varsity are the Big Ten and the Southeastern Conference. The junior varsity is everyone else. It's everyone else. So you've got either Southeastern Conference or the Big Ten. And do not discount Nick Saban walking right back into Tuscaloosa and saying, hey, I want my old gig back. Or going up to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and saying, hey, I used to be here. I wouldn't mind coming back. I know you hired Brian Kelly, but I want back. Or let's go back to Michigan. And I want to make East Lansing great again and go back to East Lansing and all that. So you can always sell, if you're Nick Saban, unfinished business at any of those schools. You can say, listen, I won at Alabama. I had some success. I did win at LSU, but I didn't win enough. And I at Michigan State, I did not get to the peak of my superpowers. That came later. So you can sell that. And it's obviously not about the money because he's loaded. I mean, have you seen the photos of Nick Saban's home? And he's got multiple homes, but the guy's absolutely stacked. He's got enough dough to live the life of Riley and for multiple reincarnations of Nick Saban for the rest of his days and then days after that. Now, the NFL is much more likely. No, it's not. He's too old. I'll tell you why I believe the NFL is more likely for Nick Saban. Because Saban sucked at a time you cannot suck with the Dolphins. And we were on these microphones at Fox Sports Radio when that was going on. And it was a major blot and remains a major blot on the resume of Nick Saban. Not to mention the fact when the rumors were he was going to go coach at Alabama and Saban lied to the media in Miami about taking the job at Alabama while the private plane was warming up at the airport to take him to Alabama to sign the paperwork to become the coach of the Crimson Tide. So the NFL chewed up Nick Saban. There's no other way to say it. Couldn't handle it, made bad decisions with personnel, and of course, he spent all of his years at Alabama. Whenever the NFL comes up, he always blames the training staff in Miami. He never takes accountability that he was a failed NFL coach. Doesn't do it. He always, I wanted Drew Brees, and I couldn't get Drew Brees, and so that's why I had to settle for Dante Culpepper, and he sucked, and it's not my coaching, and it's not. I didn't pick the wrong players. It's the training staff there in Miami. That's the reason I wasn't good. But he ran out of Miami. He ran out of Miami like the building was on fire. You cannot wait to get out of there. And that relationship with the Dolphins back in the early part of the 2000s, right? He left there, and it was like quicker than somebody finishing a Netflix night of binge watching. He's just gone. I'm out. See you later. And 2 seasons, I believe Nick Saban lasted, if I remember correctly, with the Dolphins, and then he went back to college and never looked back. He only talked about it. Every once in a while, somebody would bring it up, and he'd come up with his normal excuses and say, well, it was not my fault. Ain't my fault. That guy's the problem, right? And so going back to the NFL would, as the intellectuals like to say, close the circle. So final point. Which NFL job makes the most sense for Nick Saban? If my hypothesis is correct, that the NFL would be the place to go for Nick Saban, because that is the one flaw. That is the turd in the punch bowl for Nick Saban. So which NFL job? So you look at Saban here, the shopping list. What's on Nick Saban's shopping list? He wants to buy the groceries. He wants the right chessboard. He wants that chessboard to be perfectly set up, the right pieces in place, right? Everything lined up in a row, pre-assembled. He does not want to go to IKEA and have to build the thing by himself. Does not want that. Nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants that. So think of it like one of those NFL jobs that's like the original cup of noodles. You just add water. That's it. Just add water, warm it up a little bit, you're in good shape. An established quarterback is a must. An established quarterback is a must. Got to have it. So by the process of elimination for Nick Saban, there's one job that is obvious for Nick Saban in the NFL. You ready for it? You figured it out? Here we go, Buffalo. Here we go, Buffalo. Who says no? The Buffalo Bills have just entered the chat. Let me make my elevator pitch why if Nick Saban does come back, the Buffalo Bills make the most sense. Here's why. All right. Now, I know for some of you it sounds like bananas. Oh, that's why the guy's doing the overnight show. Let me explain. It would be like if you were to go into a bar in Rochester and see George Clooney working as a bartender. I'd be like, oh, that makes no sense. Why would he go to Rochester? Why would Nick Saban go to Buffalo? Let me make my case. Saban has never been a guy that needs L.A. or New York. He does not need that. He's from the old country. He doesn't need that crap. That's not what he is, right? And he mostly coached in relatively small college towns, Tuscaloosa, where the biggest man in Tuscaloosa is Van the One-Legged Bama Man. So Tuscaloosa, East Lansing, Michigan, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Those are the places. So you've got that. Then you look at the Bills, and whether you think Nick Saban's in line for that job or not, we can all come to the conclusion that Sean McDermott is not long for the Bills. He's on the endangered species list for coaches. The Bills have been hovering close to being a really good team, and they always find a new way to screw it up. And a lot of it is the decision-making by Sean McDermott and his decisions on the sidelines. Not all, but a lot. So Sean McDermott's on the hot seat. Buffalo has an NFL MVP quarterback, Josh Allen. They checked that box. What's in the box? They checked the box. So they've got that. And they've been just inches away like Brent Rooker was in the home run derby with Cal Raleigh, just an inch away. Just an inch away from greatness. And the downside, obviously, listen, the lake effect blizzards are no joke, right? The amount of snow that they get at that stadium is insane. It makes Siberia look like a day at the Riviera, right? When you're watching these games, and it's like a snow globe when they're playing these games. So one or two a year, it's like a blizzard snow globe game and all that stuff. And so, but that actually works as an advantage. You don't have the distractions you had in Miami or you'd have in L.A. or New York or Vegas, where people actually want to go out and live their life and party it up. You don't have to worry about that, right? So Buffalo makes a lot of sense. Now, the only other possibility, and I'm sure this will be talked about even though it's not going to happen, the Dallas Cowboys. Because Jerry Jones will find a way to grab headlines by saying, well, what about the Cowboys? They don't have a coach. That Schottenheimer guy, I mean, it's the worst coach in the NFL. What a joke that hire was. Total placeholder hire, total seat filler. And Jerry Jones might wake up one day and say, I need some headlines. Let me get the Cowboys in the news here, and I'll start selling Nick Saban. I'll leak that to some of my useful idiots in the Dallas Cowboy media.